So it was hard in the beginning. And the only reason that I went to AA meetings in jail, anyways, is because I was non bondable. And then when I went to my first court date, they said I was going to go to this place called prison for 9 to 22 years. And I was like, oh my God, I can't not get high for 9 to 22 years. Right. So I'm like, I need to get the freak out of here. So I'm watching girls come and go from the dorm room. And I'm like, where are you guys going? And one girl was like, oh, I went to AA. And I was like, oh, we have AA in here? And she was like, yeah. I was like, well, how do I AA? And then she's like, well, you have to get a tank order and put your name on it. When it's your turn, you get called up there. And so I had people sign me up. I'm like, will you do that for me? Because I wasn't putting any energy or effort into this thing, you know? And then I watched the door again, and here comes another girl. And I'm like, where were you? And she'd say CMA. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And she's like, Crystal Meth Anonymous. I'm like, that's a thing? And this girl said, yeah. So I had her sign me up. And then here comes the next girl. And I'm like, where were you? And she said, church. I'm like, we have church in here? So I got signed up for these programs to get out of this dorm in the hopes that I can run away. That as soon as my name gets called, I can run out the door and go back to New York where I belong and put this all behind me. That was the vision. Okay. So that's why I signed up, not to get a solution, not to learn about a vision for you, none of that. I just wanted to run away. But what happened is I went, and this lady spoke, and when she shared, it moved something in me. And for the first time I could feel feelings, and I hadn't felt feelings in a long time. And I cried, and she talked about wrecking her life, leaving her kids, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward 10 years, she has her kids back. She had all these things. She told the story with such validity and with such oomph, and I was sold. And so I went to her after and I said, how do I get what you got? And then she's the one that told me about that. So I was born in Fall River, Massachusetts. I grew up in Little Compton, Rhode Island, right outside of Newport, Rhode Island. I was born to two alcoholic parents, alcoholic/drug addict. It was my sister and I, and my mom and dad did the best they could, but they just couldn't get it together and or stay together. So we got moved around a lot, me and my sister. And when we were with my dad, we were at the bar because my dad liked to be at the bar. When we were with my mom during the week, we would go to school, and then she would come home and drink every night. In the summers, we would get shipped off to New York, to Long Island, to be with my grandparents. And so we kind of moved around a lot, and never could sit still. And we just grew up watching alcohol and drug abuse. So when it came time for me to start drinking and drugging, it was just a natural thing. So to answer your one question, though, no, I did not grow up in Arizona. I ended up in Arizona because I came here on vacation in 2005. I never stayed away from anything. Alcohol was my first thing, smoking weed, obviously. And then I just would try all the drugs, the ecstasy, all the party drugs. And then I always wanted to, I lived on Long Island, New York, and I was working at a hospital. I was a CNA and a certified phlebotomist, and I was in full-time nursing school. I had a couple kids. I had a house, cars, husband, all the stuff. And I always drank. I always loved to drink. So I started to add cocaine to my mix so that I could do all these other things, like, life, like school and all that. So, but again, I never, when I was in New York, I had never heard of crystal meth. I would never smoke crack. It was one of, those invisible lines that you would never cross, never cross, never cross. So it was always drinking and some coke to even it out. And then when I couldn't hang anymore, when everything got to be too much, people started asking questions. My family, I came to Arizona on vacation to get away for a moment and breathe. And when I came to Arizona, the cocaine out here was garbage. Somebody introduced me to this other stuff. I did a line of this other stuff, which turned out to be crystal meth, and my life changed forever. I never turned around and went back. That was in 2005, and I'm still here, 2025. So 20 years later, I remember doing that line of crystal meth, and I remembered my body changing in my mind. And I was up for 2 weeks straight. I was instantly hooked. I know, it's crazy. And then before you know it, I'm sticking needles in my arms. Another thing that I would never do, because I'm a certified phlebotomist, and I'm crossing all these invisible lines that I never said I would do. And before you know it, I'm going to jail. Now, I'm the first person in my family that's ever been to jail. And then I went to jail a second time, and my charges were so extreme that they sent me to prison. So I went to prison for 7 years. Mind you, I'm a spoiled little rich bitch from back east, and it was like I saw stuff that I was it was just a crazy experience, right? But while I was in jail and prison, someone introduced me to the Alcoholics Anonymous book, and they told me to read it like my life depends on it, because it does. And so I did, and I worked my steps 14 times through while I was in there. I grabbed on any program I could. I did a year-long women in recovery program. I got a ACI job inside of there, which is a job that forces you to save money and like teaches you a skill set. So I really turned my life around while I was in there. And then I got out of prison in 2017. And I paroled to a random halfway house, which is like a sober people living together. I had never heard of it, but that's what they told me my option was. So I did that, and I built my life from the ground up. I got out with 2 prison boxes and a clear TV. That's all I had to my name. No license, no car, no family, no nothing. And then when I got out in the real world, I started, trudging all these things on my own. I had gotten a phone call 3 weeks after being out that my mother passed away. She overdosed on fentanyl. And so I told my parole officer that I have to go to Vermont to go identify my mom's body. They told me I couldn't go. I wasn't eligible for a travel permit. And it felt like my world was crashing around me. So I Googled AA near me. It took me to a Mesa club. I rode my bicycle over there, and I sat there and I cried my eyes out. And those people at that Mesa club loved me at the hardest time of my life. And they reminded me about acceptance on page 417. And they reminded me that everything exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that I'm not going to be okay until I accept each person, place, thing, and situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be. So I have been out of prison for 7 years now, rebuilding my life. Fast forward, I own 2 homes here in Mesa, Arizona. I own the Camaro that I drive. I have a husband. We got ourselves a beautiful wedding, a $60,000 wedding. We flew our families out from back east. He's from back east as well. I have both of my kids back that I walked out on. They're now 24 and 22. And I am a huge 12-stepper. I'm at a meeting every day of the week. I take meetings back into the jails and the prisons today. People say to me, my dad says to me, why do you spend so much time inside of the prison when you left there? Why are you back in there so much? But it's because I'm giving back what was so freely given to me. And there's no price tag you can put on that. So I work in treatment. I've worked in treatment since I got out. Someone told me it would be good for me to go work at this place called CBI, which is a crisis/detox center out here. And I had no skill set of doing that, but they hired me on as a peer support, and I excelled through that company. I became a supervisor, and then I opened centers, and then I went and worked inpatient. And then, with that being said, on the receiving line of phone calls for 7 years of people seeking treatment that had animals that got either left behind and or they couldn't go because they had this dog or this cat. So I had told my husband, like, we really need to do something here. So I just started doing it. I just started taking people's animals in. And then the treatment center that I worked for was like, you can't take these people's animals here and have the animal. It's like against our policy. So I was like, oh shoot. So I'd either have to like do it behind their back or stop doing it, right? And either way, I didn't like the feeling of either. So essentially what happened is we quit that treatment center. I started my own Colby Love LLC consulting business where I do consulting for other treatment centers. And then I started this nonprofit where we can house people's animals in our houses and not have to hide or lie. And doing that, we've been able to help. We've been open for a year now. We've been able to help over 100 animals. I wish it was more. I wish there was more funding, because right now in my house, I have 17 dogs and 21 cats. And then at my other house, we have 7 dogs and 7 cats. And I get phone calls. I get anywhere from 20 to 30 phone calls a day of people begging me to watch their animals, that they're either evicted, going to treatment, going to psych, something. Like I just, right before this call, I got a call from a lady that has 3 cats that got evicted and is camping outside of where she was living in a tent with 3 cats. And I can't take them because I don't have the room. And I gave her this option that they use around here. She said they won't take the cats because 2 of them are 13, which is a liability, but it's one that I'm willing to take, but I just don't have any more space. So, anyways, I try for these grants, and I hope and pray every day that something will fall into my lap so that I can help more animals and more people. And that's kind of my story in a nutshell. So, it was hard in the beginning, and the only reason that I went to AA meetings in jail anyways is because I was non-bondable. And so when you're in jail and you have an option for bail or bond, they take you to this place and you can make some phone calls and call people to try to get out, right? That was my experience first time I was in there. Now, I never got anybody to give the money and I couldn't get out, but at least there was that opportunity. The second time I was in jail, they page two'd me and page two'd me and page two'd me and page two'd me, which means that they've been waiting for me to sit still, and they had outstanding charges for me. So once you get page two'd, once there's more charges, you can't be bonded out. So because I was non-bondable, I felt trapped. And then when I went to my first court date, they said I was going to go to this place called prison for 9 to 22 years. And I was like, oh my God, I can't not get high for 9 to 22 years, right? So I'm like, I need to get the freak out of here. So I'm watching girls come and go from the dorm room, and I'm like, where are you guys going? And one girl was like, oh, I went to AA. And I was like, oh, we have AA in here? And she was like, yeah. I was like, well, how do I AA? And then she's like, well, you have to get a tank order and put your name on it. When it's your turn, you get called up there. And so I had people sign me up. I'm like, will you do that for me? Because I wasn't putting any energy or effort into this thing, And then I watched the door again, and here comes another girl, and I'm like, where were you? And she'd say CMA, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And she's like, Crystal Meth Anonymous. I'm like, that's a thing? And this girl said, yeah. So I had her sign me up, and then here comes the next girl, and I'm like, where were you? And she said, church. I'm like, we have church in here? So I got signed up for these programs to get out of this dorm in the hopes that I can run away. That as soon as my name gets called, I can run out the door and go back to New York where I belong and put this all behind me. That was the vision. Okay. So, that's why I signed up, not to get a solution, not to learn about a vision for you, none of that. I just wanted to run away. But what happened is I went, and this lady spoke, and when she shared, it moved something in me. And for the first time, I could feel feelings, and I hadn't felt feelings in a long time. And I cried, and she talked about wrecking her life, leaving her kids, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward 10 years, she has her kids back. She had all these things. She told the story with such validity and with such oomph, and I was fucking sold. And so I went to her after, and I said, how do I get what you got? And then she's the one that told me about that big book, and then I got to get it, and I got to read it like my life depends on it, because it does. And so I did. So I went to AA accidentally, and I found a solution. I have 5 sponsees right now. I have multiple service commitments. I work an AA program and also a Co-Anon program. So Cocaine Anonymous has an Al-Anon program called Co-Anon, because there's some deep-rooted stuff that needs to get fixed up. So I'm working on that. I am a circuit speaker for Cocaine Anonymous, so I do fly around the world to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I'm constantly helping people and animals, and giving back to my community. And I totally am grateful. It's wet over there. I'm sure somebody peed. I totally am grateful for the 7 years that they gave me. And just like your baby mama, like, you can focus on yourself. It's like, yeah, there's a job in there, but it's not like, but there's no bills, there's no kids, there's no other stuff. You literally focus on yourself. Like, they want you to focus on yourself. So it's awesome. So he did 14 years in prison, 4 different times. So he didn't get it the first, second, or third time. The last time he woke up in a bed. He had overdosed, and he woke up in a hospital bed, and he went to pull the IVs out, and his foot was chained to the bed. He didn't know what he did, and so he read the police report, and he was swerving in and out of traffic, walking, and the police stopped him, and he had a bunch of drugs on him, and because he had all these felonies, so long story short, he got sentenced to 4.5, and he told himself, he made a promise to himself right then and there that he wasn't going to live like that anymore. And then he started, working his 12 steps in prison and doing his life. And he's been out, so I've been out for 7 years. He's been out for 6 years. We crossed paths 4 years ago. And I picked him up to go to a meeting. I got a Chihuahua right here too. That's Toho. He was a rescue, and he came to us with that name. And listen, every day is a good day that I wake up sober, man, and I get to do what I do every day, and that's go. I group facilitate, and I go run groups, and I relate with people every day because I've been where they've been. I've sat where they sat. You know what I mean? I did 14 years in prison myself, and I'm just happy that I get to live the life I live today, man. It's a blessing. Listen, I wake up and I'm in awe of my wife every day, man. That's the God's honest truth. Just to watch her and the things that she does and the countless numbers of people a day that she helps, not a week, not a month, a day, it's just awesome to see. It's awesome to watch, and it's awesome to learn from. You know what I mean? And we're a power couple in the sobriety community here in Mesa. So yeah, life is just good today, man. You just have to have been, you have to have told yourself that it's enough. I can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? And I made that decision 10 years ago. And I did my last 4.5 years in prison sober because I decided that I'm tired, man. I'm just tired of living that life. And it's time to see what else life has to offer besides pain and misery, I'll give you a quick synopsis of how it happened. So it was November 27th, 2014. It was Thanksgiving that year, Thanksgiving Day. I was on 200 milligrams of methadone. I had probably shot 2 or 3 grams of heroin already that day on top of my methadone. I took a bunch of Valiums. I was smoking weed. I was smoking meth. I was just doing everything, and I put myself into a blackout. And when I came out of that blackout, I woke up in the Maricopa County Medical Center, and I just thought I overdosed again. And every time I've overdosed prior, I just take the IVs out of my arms or whatever. I get out of bed and I leave. This time, I went to get out of the bed, and my ankle was locked to the bed. And I looked at the door. There was a cop sitting at the door, and I had absolutely no clue what I did to get myself put in that position. Only by reading the police report. And thankfully, that was God working in my life again. I only got caught with an 8-ball of heroin. I didn't get behind the wheel of a car. I didn't drive and run somebody over. I didn't get into an accident and kill some kid. And I made the decision right there and then that I'm not going to live my life this way no more. It's obvious that I'm going back to prison, or else there wouldn't be a cop at the door and my foot wouldn't be locked to the bed. So I have to do something, and I just can't. And the judge told me one time, at the time before that I went to prison, he's like, Mr. Martin, are you planning on giving the state of Arizona a life sentence on an installment plan? And and that ran through my head at that point too. And I'm like, you know what? I can't keep doing this, man. I'm done. And I did my last 4.5 years sober inside the walls. And if you know anything about prison, that's a feat in itself, is staying sober inside there. But I did it. I came home. I went back east. When I got out, I went back home and reacquainted with my family because they seen a change in me. And then I came back to Arizona, and I met the woman of my dreams, and our life is just a fairy tale from there on, man. We own 2 homes now. Never in a million years did I think I would own 1 home or be anything other than sleeping on somebody else's couch. You know what I mean? Drive a brand new truck. I got a brand new Harley in the garage, and this is all because of the program of Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's just a program, a 12-step program that if you follow it to a T, you can't fail. You know what I mean? And all the years prior that I came into the programs, I got out of prison and parole made me go to the meetings and do this and that. I never went for myself. I always went because parole wanted me to go. I went because my mom wanted me to go. I went because my grandma wanted me to go. I never went because I actually wanted to be there. Until I, turned that corner and that switch flipped in my head, and I went to these meetings and I got a sponsor and I used him and I did the steps, and my life is beautiful today, man. It really is.
And it's all glory to God and the program, man, and the 12-step program. And my wife's got a little bit in there too. She keeps me on the right track as well. Yeah, the sky is the limit, man, and we just keep going. We keep pushing every day, and good things happen to good people, man. God is on our side, man. There's times, I'm sure my wife told you, that we were in need of something, or you know what I mean. And she just my wife gives it to God every morning, man, and God provides for us. So we never want or need for anything, because God will always provide for us, man. And we're simple people, you know what I mean? We live very simply. We like to, travel and do things when we have the money to do that, but we can do that today. We got passports. Never in a million years did we think we would even be allowed to get a passport. We went to Sweden. My wife spoke at a CA conference in Sweden. Like, the stuff that we do today is beyond my wildest dreams, man. I never could have dreamed that I'd be doing the things that I do today. We need some help, like that's part about traveling and doing all that stuff I told you about. Well, we haven't done it in a while because we have all these dogs and everything to take to the vet, and we're coming out of pocket for everything. You know what I mean? And it's not a problem. We gladly do it anyway, but a little help wouldn't hurt.
Hi. You'll have to meet Milk. So my favorite and my little roll dog is Milk. She was in the room with me. She's, let's see. So here she is. Oh, Ginger's right here. So this is Milk. She goes with me everywhere. She travels with me on planes. She flies back east. She's British. I gave her a British accent, so she calls me Mommy. And she says, Mommy, I don't want to be here with these peasants all the time. Mommy, take me with you. So number one is turning my life and my will over to God. Every single morning I wake up and I throw my hands up in the air and I say, here you go. It's yours. You direct the bus. So number one would be giving my life to God. Number two would be staying in some readings, doing a daily reader, reading AA literature or Koan literature, some type of reading. And then the third thing would be helping another alcoholic or drug addict. All right, so to find us on the web, it's www.paws, Paws, and recovery, recovery.com. On there is some pictures of what we do. There is we have an Amazon wish list where you can order stuff like food and whatnot and litter, and it comes right to the house. There's also a give butter on there, which you can donate money. You'll see on there that over the last year I've raised $18,000. However, all that money's gone to vet bills. There's $23 in the account right now. Anything helps. And what I would like is to get a facility so that I can take in more animals, and or have paid staff. Right now I have some volunteers that come over here and there to walk dogs and to help, but it's not the same. I'd like to have paid staff so we can go so that I can leave for a week and go back home to see family, which is really important too, right? So anyways, my goal is to get a spot, to get a facility, and then I've been writing grants. I did just get approved for a $20,000 grant, so that's cool. I've been using my own care credit card to pay for these vet bills, and it's up to $10,000. So I'll use $10,000 of it to pay that back, and then I'll use the other $10,000 probably on food. So anyways, none of that's going to go to a facility. So I'm going to keep going for grants to get monies for a facility, but anything can help just to get the word out, to get monies raised, and yeah, my phone number is 480-849-1192. You can call or text me. I turn off my ringer at 9 o'clock. But I'm always open for collaborating ideas and doing presentations and whatnot as well. It is info, INFO, at Colby Love Can, so ColbyLoveCan.com.